Okay, let's carry on. This is the fourth video. We will jump into something referred to as the annual allowance, but let's quickly, I've talked about this bit before, what's going on with the occupational pension scheme. Pretty straightforward. Your employer is deducting your pension from your gross wages straight away. So relief is given at source, pretty much. Automatically, that's pretty much what is going on, and you will receive relief at your highest rate of tax. And of course, your employer is contributing as well into the fund. And this, as far as the employer is concerned, is an allowable deduction. No problem. You can deduct that. And it's not a benefit for you. So I think I mentioned this earlier on. Now, of course, with all these gifts, with all these apparent gifts, there's always a little sort of hook to them. The government have an annual allowance of what can be put in. So every year there is a maximum that you can actually put in. So even first of all, with the first restriction of how much of what your relevant earnings are, you also have a second restriction in terms of when we talk about what you can put, not what you can put in, forgive me, what you can actually gain relief on. So you can put in whatever you like, but it's really about the relief. Sometimes slip on that as well. So we have this maximum annual amount, and it's just called an annual allowance. And if you put in anything over that annual allowance in that year, is subject to a tax charge. And that's actually taxed at your highest rate of income. But let's see how the annual allowance works. So the annual allowance for 2014-15, 15-16, and 16-17 was 40 grand in each year. So 40,000, 40,000, 40,000. But what they allow you to do is to bring forward any unused annual allowances from the previous 3 years. So if you don't use up, it's a bit like saying what we can't do it's a bit like saying if you don't use up your personal allowance in 1 year, you can carry it forward to the next. That's what we're sort of saying here. So if you don't put in as much in a particular year, you can carry it forward to the next. And what you can do is you can do that. You have up to 40,000 each year. So it was larger so prior to 2014-15, 2013-14, you allowed 50 grand. So you might get a question where they start off with 2013-14. So the allowance was actually 50 grand, but post that it's all 40 grand. So, and this is for all years. So 12, 13, 11, 12, 10, 11, all, if you like, 50,000 pounds, allowance. And like I said here, any unused AA can be carried forward. And the thing, what you have to do is, how you use it is that the AA for the current year, of course, is used up. Then the AA for the earlier years. So we go back, yes, you're allowed 3 years. So for example, if you're here, if you're here at 15-16, you must use up the allowance in your year first. And then we have here 14-15, then we have 13-14, and then we have 12-13. So you must come back first in, first out, and use up any unused allowances in this year. So a first in, first out basis. And as you can understand, that's sort of fair, because once we get here, 16-17, you can't use this anymore, right? You can only use any allowances here. And so that protects, if you like, the allowances that haven't been used in the years closest to the year in question that we're talking about. So let's do this little example very quickly of a gentleman called Ahmed, who has made the following gross contributions to his personal pension, and he has relevant earnings of 100,000. So this just kind of gives you that the reason why I guess they've used this figure is to say all of this is allowable in terms of he can contribute in terms of relevant earnings. This is fine, subject of course to these allowances. So in 13, if you like, in 13-14, he contributes 22,000, which is fine, but he still has an allowance of 28,000, doesn't he? Because he's got that sitting there that he didn't use in that year. He could have contributed up to 50,000, but he only contributed 22. So there's 28,000 sitting there. In 1415, he contributed 26,000. So here we have a scenario where he has 14,000 sitting for that year. And then in 1516, he contributes 33,000. So he has, sorry, forgive me, this is 40. So 40 minus 26, oops, sorry, 46, where was that? 40 minus 26,000 means he has 14,000 sitting there. Here, 40,000 minus 33,000, which means he's got 7,000 for that year. Now, this is interesting. In 2016, he makes this donation and he puts this into his pension fund of 58,000. So he's only allowed 40, and he's put in 58, right? So he is now 18,000 over the limit. But I can go back 3 years. So for him, his first year, FIFO, when we talk about 3 years, is this 28,000. So 28,000 will cover comfortably this 18,000. So I can, if you like, use up 18,000 from this first year, and therefore the 58,000 will all be allowed, if you like, as a personal pension. All of this can gain relief as a personal pension contribution. So there's 10,000 here left, but of course, as you can imagine, that's pretty much the end of it, because once I go into 1718, I can't use this 10,000 anymore. I can only now really start with the 14,000 from 2014-15. So that's how that works. And yeah, I think that's a pretty straightforward forward one. And again, I'm trying to think of anything else in this one. Let me see what happens. What this is. Let's just try and get to 10 minutes. So whatever, if the total of all the contributions exceed the AA, there is a tax charge on the excess. And again, like I said, the tax charge is calculated as if the excess is the individual's top slice of income at the non-savings rate, if you like. So it's pretty much as though for example, if there was no allowance left, for example, in 2016-17, and he was only allowed 40,000, of course, and he ends up giving 60,000. So straight away, 20,000 of that, if he donates 60,000, 20,000 of that is treated as though he had received income. So if his actual relevant, I mean, this is just the donation. If his relevant earnings, if you like, and we were going to tax all this, were, I don't know, let's just say 60,000. Oh no, let's say 80,000. Now you can see straight away he's a higher rate earner. This 20,000, so we will do all the tax and calculate everything. Pretty much, as far as we're concerned, we could pretty much just add 20,000 to this and tax it at 40%. We're quite sure this is going to be taxed at 40% just because of this is 80,000. So that's the penalty really for excess donations, taxed at, if you like, after everything else, after whatever, and that's how we deal with that. Okay, great stuff. I will stop there, and I will see you in the next video.